Throughout history, the most devastating strikes were never delivered with an open charge, but under the deceptive cloak of generosity, friendship, and unyielding goodwill. 3,000 years ago, the Greeks spent a decade fruitlessly besieging the impenetrable stone walls of Troy, failing repeatedly with brute force and open confrontation. Every direct assault collapsed into blood and exhaustion, proving that courage alone cannot shatter a fortress designed to withstand open warfare and relentless pressure. Victory came only when Odysseus abandoned direct violence, crafting a massive wooden horse as a fake peace offering to fool the overly proud Trojan defenders. The Trojans brought their own destruction inside their fortress walls, celebrating a false victory while their ultimate undoing silently waited inside the hollow timber. Today, human nature remains entirely unchanged. Human beings still celebrate illusions and lower their shields the moment their ego feels flattered and victorious. If you parade your true intentions openly, society builds thick defensive walls, mobilizes resistance, and prepares to neutralize your every single move long before you begin. To master strategic influence, you must master the art of concealment, presenting a harmless exterior while quietly positioning your forces for an overwhelming, decisive victory. Modern culture obsessively preaches transparency and absolute honesty, convincing naive individuals that revealing their full hand builds trust and earns long-term respect. In reality, unconditional openness is tactical suicide, exposing your vulnerabilities, long-term strategy, and ultimate destinations to those competing directly against your growth. When people clearly see where you are going, they naturally build obstacles, spread subtle rumors, or prepare countermeasures long before you ever reach your destination. Niccolò Machiavelli understood that a leader must master the art of illusion, appearing completely predictable while keeping true motives hidden beneath the surface. Society rewards discretion, yet it actively punishes those who loudly announce their ambition before acquiring the actual power needed to protect their positions. By disguising your real objectives behind familiar and harmless social gestures, you disarm external suspicion and gain complete control over the surrounding narrative. Silence is not weakness. It is the ultimate shield that allows your plans to mature in total darkness, untouched by jealousy, competition, or unexpected interference. Early in my career, I naively believed that sharing my ambitious goals with everyone around me would attract genuine support and valuable professional allies. I thought that by being completely transparent about my visions, others would recognize my dedication and willingly join forces to build something great together. Instead, I noticed a subtle shift. People whom I considered friends began quietly undermining my efforts and offering passive-aggressive advice to slow me down. My open ambition made me an immediate threat to their ego and standing, triggering defensive instincts in people who otherwise seemed completely supportive and friendly. I watched as less qualified colleagues stole strategic ideas, repackaged them as their own, and used my openness to secure key promotions right before my eyes. I learned the hard way that when you announce your destination, you invite every idle bystander to become a critic, rival, or deliberate roadblock. Everything changed the day I started acting with complete discretion, keeping my key moves completely silent until the outcome was already sealed beyond recall. The Trojan horse worked not only because of Greek cunning, but because the Trojans were desperately eager to believe that their 10-year nightmare was finally over. When the priest Laocoon warned his citizens to fear the Greeks even when bringing gifts, his voice was swallowed by the collective roar of premature celebration. even when he hurled a spear into the wooden side, causing the hollow timber to echo. The crowd refused to listen to the sound of hidden danger. Even when the prophetess Cassandra explicitly foretold the burning of Troy, her warnings were dismissed as madness by people intoxicated by the illusion of victory. Effective psychological disguise always targets the specific desires, expectations, or insecurities of your targets, giving them precisely what they want to see and hear. When an individual wants to believe a comforting lie, they will actively ignore glaring red flags, logical contradictions, and obvious signs of danger right in front of them. If you want to enter a guarded system unnoticed, wear the uniform of standard compliance and speak the familiar language of the local culture smoothly. People rarely investigate what appears ordinary, helpful, or flattering because their critical thinking shuts down when their personal expectations are fully satisfied. Hide your sharpest intentions behind a wall of conventional behavior, modest appearances, and everyday routines that nobody would ever bother to analyze deeply. Principle 1. Use absolute conformity as your primary smokescreen. Never make a show of being rebellious or unique when planning a major strategic shift. Eccentricity and loud statements attract unnecessary scrutiny, placing your actions under a microscope and forcing observers to analyze your every single step with suspicion. When the Greek fleet feigned retreat, they burned their camp and sailed behind the island of Tenedos, creating a complete illusion of abandonment and failure. By blending seamlessly into your environment, you become practically invisible, allowing you to move strategic pieces without raising a single alarm or concern. Adopt the standard opinions, modest dress, and expected manners of your group, creating a calm backdrop that hides your true internal calculation from external eyes. The most dangerous player in the room is never the loudest loudmouth, but the polite observer who agrees with everyone while quietly executing their master plan. Let others waste their precious energy seeking cheap public attention, while you use their distraction to quietly build an unassailable position behind the scenes. When your exterior appears entirely ordinary, your opponents relax, giving you the time and psychological space required to prepare an unbeatable tactical advantage. Principle 2. Practice tactical honesty to establish instant credibility. Sharing a small, harmless truth creates a powerful illusion of total transparency and sincerity. When you selectively confess a minor mistake or reveal a harmless secret, listeners automatically assume you have nothing larger left to hide from them. The Greeks used a fake defector named Sinon to tell a convincing lie, swearing oaths and shedding tears to validate the wooden horse's sacred purpose. Sinon played the role of an abandoned victim so convincingly that the Trojan king himself unchained him and welcomed him into the city as a trusted friend. He explained that the horse was built massive specifically to prevent the Trojans from dragging it inside their gates and gaining divine protection. This clever reverse psychology triggered Trojan pride, making them determined to break their own walls just to prove Sinon and the Greeks wrong. Human beings are easily disarmed by calculated vulnerability, mistakenly equating a person's willingness to share weakness with absolute, unshakable personal integrity. Strategically throw a bone of truth to feed your opponent's curiosity, satisfying their desire for information while protecting your core strategy completely intact. This tactical honesty acts like a master key, unlocking doors of trust that would remain permanently shut to someone who appears guarded or overly secretive. Use this trust responsibly, ensuring your harmless openness serves as a protective cloak for the strategic moves you carry out in total, disciplined silence. Principle 3. Control perception by feeding familiar patterns. People naturally rely on past behavior to predict what you will do in the future. If you establish a consistent, predictable routine, observers stop paying close attention, assuming tomorrow will look exactly like yesterday's familiar pattern. Trojan scouts monitored the Greek encampment for 10 long years, becoming conditioned to specific military signals and standard daily naval routines across the bay. When the Greeks suddenly broke that long-standing pattern under the cover of night, the Trojans interpreted the change through their own wishful thinking and biases. In corporate and personal dynamics, establish a reputation for being predictable and steady so that when you maneuver, nobody suspects a thing. Use predictable habits to put rivals to sleep, then strike from an angle they never anticipated because it falls outside their established mental model. When people think they have you completely figured out, they stop watching your hands, giving you absolute freedom to maneuver without any interference. Surprise is the ultimate force multiplier in social dynamics, transforming a modest advantage into an overwhelming, undeniable victory over your opponent. Principle 4. Design actions that serve a dual purpose. Every visible step you take should offer a plausible, harmless explanation alongside its real objective. If questioned about your moves, you must always possess an innocent, completely logical cover story that satisfies superficial inquiries instantly and without suspicion. The wooden horse was constructed to look like a religious offering to Athena, making any attempt to destroy it seem sacrilegious to Trojan citizens. Because the horse carried a holy reputation, the defenders felt morally obligated to protect it, effectively using their own religious beliefs against their survival. Frame your strategic initiatives around shared organizational goals, professional duty, or public benefit, making opposition look unreasonable, petty, or counterproductive. When your cover story is perfectly aligned with societal values, critics cannot attack you without appearing to attack the noble principles you claim to serve. This creates an impenetrable shield around your maneuvers, forcing opponents to hesitate while you quietly solidify your advantage right before their eyes. Ensure your public justification remains ironclad, leaving no visible gaps for rivals to exploit or use to expose your underlying tactical motivations. Principle 5. Master the discipline of delayed execution. The effectiveness of any hidden intention depends entirely on choosing the absolute perfect moment to act. Striking too early reveals your strategy before your position is fully secured, allowing defenders to close the gates and organize an effective counterattack. The elite warriors inside the Trojan horse waited silently for hours in pitch darkness, ignoring heat, cramps, and the chaotic sounds of Trojan victory celebrations. They did not make a sound when Helen of Troy walked around the horse, calling out their names and imitating the voices of their distant wives. They maintained complete silence under extreme psychological stress, knowing that a single cough or whisper would result in immediate slaughter for them all. They acted only when the city was fast asleep, paralyzed by alcohol and false security, ensuring maximum impact with minimal possibility of defensive response. Emotional impatience is the single greatest enemy of stealth. It forces people to drop their disguise before the trap is completely set. Train yourself to endure long periods of quiet observation, gathering intelligence, and building leverage until the odds are overwhelmingly stacked in your favor. When the decisive moment finally arrives, execute your move with absolute speed and finality, leaving no time for the opposition to recover or negotiate. Principle 6. Build hidden alliances before making public claims. Real power operates through quiet networks long before it makes a formal appearance on stage. Secure key support behind closed doors, ensuring that when you step into the light, the decision has already been agreed upon in advance. Never launch a major initiative relying on open debate. Organize your backers in secret so the public presentation is merely a formality. Principle 7. Force the enemy to invite their own defeat. Guide your target into making the critical mistake through their own free choices. The Trojans breached their own massive walls to drag the wooden horse inside, actively destroying their own defenses without a single Greek arrow fired. They worked tirelessly through the night, sweating to tear down their historical stone ramparts just to bring the symbol of their ruin into their city. Manipulate circumstances so that your opponent voluntarily hands over access, authority, or key information, believing it serves their immediate personal interest. When people feel in total control of a decision, they defend it fiercely, becoming active participants in executing a plan that ultimately undermines them. Principle 8. Execute during the period of maximum vulnerability. True strategists wait for the exact moment when the opponent feels entirely safe. Complacency creates a psychological blindness that no wall or security system can fix, leaving even the strongest empires defenseless against internal betrayal. At midnight, Sinan climbed the citadel and lit a hidden beacon torch, signaling the fleet at Tenedos to return under the cover of moonless dark. Inside the city, Odysseus and his men opened the trapdoor, dropped rope ladders quietly to the stone pavement, and eliminated the sleeping guards without sound. They unbolted the massive outer gates from the inside, opening the floodgates for thousands of returning Greek soldiers to march in silently. The city fell in a single night, not because its walls were weak, but because its internal vigilance had completely dissolved into false comfort. In modern career and business battles, strike when your position is fully entrenched, leaving no room for counterarguments, appeals, or resistance. Make your final transition so smooth and sudden that by the time people realize what has happened, the new hierarchy is already established. Modern corporate dynamics mirror the Trojan War daily, where hostile takeovers and executive reshuffles are prepared behind innocent consulting reports and friendly meetings. Smart players do not challenge the dominant figurehead directly. They quietly acquire control over key logistical nodes, client relationships, and essential operational processes. They make themselves indispensable while projecting modest deference, ensuring that when the organizational shift occurs, they are the only logical successor left standing. Avoid showing your cards during preliminary negotiations, using neutral language and agreement on small points to obscure your unyielding position on major terms. Allow your opponent to feel like they are winning early tactical concessions, making them relaxed and eager to sign agreements that favor your long-term vision. The greatest victories are those where the defeated party believes until the very last second that they were the ones controlling the entire negotiation process. The strategy of the Trojan horse is not about meaningless cruelty, but about mastering emotional self-control and navigating a world filled with hidden competition. If you march blindly into every conflict with open intentions, you will continually smash against stone walls built by people far more strategic than you. The world does not reward naive honesty. It rewards strategic foresight, emotional discipline, and the ability to protect your vision until it manifests. Learn to guard your mind. Project a calm exterior, and let your ultimate achievements speak for themselves once victory is already completely secured. Stop letting premature excitement leak your strategy to people who do not share your vision or care about your ultimate success. Become comfortable operating in the shadows, building your capabilities quietly, and letting your results shatter the silence with undeniable force. Master the art of strategic silence. Protect your inner circle and transform your ambitions into undeniable results that cannot be reversed by anyone. Observe those around you with a cold, analytical eye, identifying who operates with open transparency and who uses subtle disguises to gain ground. Recognize when someone is trying to offer you a Trojan horse, analyzing gifts, sudden compliments, and unearned favors before bringing them into your life. Cultivate a mind that sees through superficial appearances, protecting your personal boundaries from subtle infiltration and manipulative charm. True power is quiet, patient, and deeply calculated. It does not need to shout because its actions speak with absolute, unyielding authority. Stand firm in your resolve, reject the temptation of cheap applause, and focus entirely on building a legacy that endures the test of time. Take control of your personal narrative, master the mechanics of influence, and turn every obstacle into a stepping stone toward your ultimate goals. Never allow temporary setbacks to break your composure, maintaining the long view while others panic over short-term shifts and minor fluctuations. Build your fortress of personal independence on discipline, strategic foresight, and unwavering mental sovereignty that remains untouched by social noise. Practice the art of disguise not to harm the innocent, but to protect your potential from those who seek to limit your reach and influence. Understand that every interaction carries a hidden power dynamic, and those who ignore the rules are destined to be governed by those who master them. Refuse to be a pawn in another person's grand design, taking full responsibility for every strategic choice, boundary, and relationship you cultivate. Let your actions remain subtle and your execution decisive, ensuring that when you strike, the result is permanent and beyond debate. Equip yourself with the timeless tools of dark psychology, turning historical wisdom into practical modern leverage for your personal and professional growth. Remember that the ultimate Trojan horse is absolute mastery over your own emotions, reactions, and visible signals in high-pressure social environments. Transform yourself from easy target to strategic master, navigating complex human hierarchies with cold clarity, unyielding confidence, and quiet precision. Subscribe to the channel to deepen your understanding of dark psychology and strategic power. Leave a like if you are ready to master concealment, and share your thoughts below. Step out of the illusions of the crowd, embrace the discipline of the master strategist, and begin building your silent empire today.